Hello, in this demonstration, I am going to explore the various properties of paint. I've got an acrylic, like a fluid, very liquidy acrylic ink. I've got a high flow, a heavy body turquoise, which I'm going to add water to, and then a paint that's already liquid, but probably a little bit too thick. So I'm going to add water to that. And I'm going to explore these properties of paint on a piece of cotton fabric. Underneath is a piece of watercolor paper so that the paint will, some of it will be absorbed on the paint on the paper, and sometimes you get a second work of art that way. And I'm doing this kind of in the style of Helen Frankenthaler's soak stain painting. Okay, so I'm going to get started with the paints that are the most fluid first. On one side, I'm going to wet my cotton fabric and paint, and the other I'm not, so you can see the difference. So I'm going to start with wetting this half with water. Okay, here is the acrylic ink. So that's just adding drops. Here's drawing with it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side so you can see the difference. It holds its shape more on the side that is not wet. So it really depends on what effect you want. Now, the high flow paint is nice because I can, comes in this squeezy bottle. I can just draw directly with it. This is an indigo. Okay, there's on the wet side. Here's on the dry. So this paint is just slightly thicker and it's going to hold its shape more on that side. If I wanted it to spread, again, I've got my spray bottle. That's just two squirts with my spray bottle. I'll do one more. Okay, and then I can get it to bleed. All right, now I'm going to go to, I've got a bronze liquid paint. But it's really too thick. So I'm going to add some water. How much is hard to say. I'm going to start, I've got a tablespoon here, maybe not quite a tablespoon. Let's start that, blend it around. You don't want any lumps in it, right? Okay, that still looks too thick to me. Looks like chocolate sauce. Okay, add some more water. So I guess a good measurement or measure or knowing when it's thin enough is, yeah, real liquidy, kind of like the high flow. I'm using this bristle brush to kind of scrub it around. Okay, now I'm going to try her method where she pours. Still might be a little thick. I'm going to add more water. And if you have something that's a little bit pointier, it's a little bit easier to control that flow. Okay, she used as we saw in the video, her hands. She used sponges. I'm going to try this silicone, it's called a spatcher. It's kind of a squeegee thing. That's kind of nice. I could spread it around with that. So today it's really going to be about exploring the properties of paint, playing with them. Okay, now I'll do one last mixture of the heavy body. So you need some containers to mix these paints in. Okay, I think this one is going to pour a little bit better. And I believe this is on a cotton pillowcase. Another good source of cotton would be dish towels. It's kind of soothing, and it's kind of exciting. There's a little element of surprise. Like you have some control, but you don't completely know what it's going to do. Another thing that might be fun to work with are those little what do they call it? Eyedroppers. You could squeeze little drops on that way. Okay, I'll do maybe one last thing with this. Again, if I want even more control, get your brush, and then I can make specific marks, more precise marks that then spread out. If you get really into this, you could do all the pillowcases in your house, and then you'd have something really nice to sleep on. This copper seems to just kind of stay suspended on the surface a little bit more. Okay, and I could just, but totally carried away here. I haven't done salt. If it's wet enough, if I sprinkle salt, then it's going to, when it dries, it's going to make a speckle effect. So I think you can see the difference between these two sides. The side with the water is a little more diffuse, and the one without the water is a little more graphic. Let me pull this up, and I want to see what landed on my paper below, just out of curiosity. It already looks pretty cool to me. So not all of it went through, more went through on the wet side, but sometimes I save that paper and then I do something with that. Okay, and that is it for soak stain painting.